Many of you are asking me, why on earth am I voting or planning to vote for Hillary Clinton over Bernie Sanders? Well, it's not for any deep conviction about Clinton's integrity or honesty. I share the common perception of her as a political opportunist. I think she really wants to be president. I don't doubt that she also wants to live in a nice world and help people, but if you get one thing from the Clintons, it is their desire to be in power and on the top of the mountain. And there is a basic insincerity there. There's a endless appetite for political calculation in place of obvious candor. And it is definitely grating, and it doesn't inspire trust. If you ever heard her trying not to admit that she had changed her mind about gay marriage in an interview with Terry Gross on Fresh Air, I think this happened about 2 years ago, you'll see everything that's wrong with her approach to communicating the workings of her own mind. It's the most excruciating 5 minutes of radio I can remember hearing, where she's becoming more and more defensive, more and more irate that Terry would suggest that she had changed her mind on this topic, whereas she had actually changed her mind on the topic. It's just unbelievable. But she's changed her mind to the right position on that topic. And I think she's, despite the fact that she will say that ISIS has nothing to do with Islam and that Islam is a religion of peace, and she will sound like a fairly delusional person when talking about the conflict in the Middle East, I'm reasonably confident that she understands what is actually going on there and that she's one of the grown-ups who will be able to respond to crises there in an intelligent way. I imagine she will continue Obama's policies to some significant degree. I can't claim to know that about Bernie Sanders. I don't think he has thought about foreign policy very much. He certainly hasn't said much about it. The little he has said makes me worry that he's been somewhat infected by Noam Chomsky's worldview, which I think is the moral black hole swallowing everything on the left side of the political spectrum. So I don't actually know whether we can trust Sanders to be wise on what I consider the most crucial question of foreign policy, which is our fight against global jihadism. And there are many other questions where I would expect Hillary to be far more seasoned and smarter, frankly, on foreign policy, whether it's with Russia or China or any other hard case. I agree that the influence of money in politics and wealth inequality, these are huge issues that we have to get our hands around. I suspect that the difference between Clinton and Sanders on those topics is not so much a matter of what they want to accomplish, but I think Sanders is making promises he can't possibly keep there. I mean, he's clearly an idealist, and his idealism will be smashed if he was ever in office having to deal with Congress. So I think these are empty promises, albeit revolutionary ones, that he's making on those topics. But most important, far more important than anything I have just said, is the fact that I think Sanders cannot get elected in the general election. Now, I know this will raise the ire of all of his fans who are aware of national polls where he's beating Ted Cruz, for instance, and Hillary isn't. But Sanders has not been hammered for the better part of a year by the Republicans because he's not been a plausible candidate until now. If he were the Democratic nominee, a billion-dollar apparatus on the Republican side would do nothing but emphasize his identity as a socialist, right? There is no way this country is electing somebody who has to nuance the term socialism in a general election. It's worse than being an atheist at this moment. It's not the only strike against him, but I think it's a devastating one. So I think nominating Sanders would be to virtually guarantee a Republican victory in a year where the Republican candidates are both less sane and less competent than usual. There's just no reason for the Democrats to lose this election. And I think it would be terrible if they did. I think the prospect of having Cruz or Trump as president is an extraordinarily scary one for different reasons in each case. But I think the only grown-up in sight here is Clinton. And that doesn't mean I don't have great reservations about her. But I think she's smart and competent and knows how to compromise so as to get some things done in government. And I certainly can't say that about Sanders across the board. So take that as a tepid endorsement of necessity for Clinton. But that's why I've said what I've said about Hillary versus Bernie.